Hi, I'm Matt with Main Street Medina, and welcome to another edition of Medina Minute. Today we're going to sit down with a couple friends and familiar faces from around the city of Medina and learn a little bit more about them and what makes Medina, Medina. Well, good morning. Welcome to Medina Minute. We're here with Luke Lindon. What is your official title in the job?
Reverend.
Oh, the Reverend.
Yes.
All right, Reverend Linden from Medina United
Church of Christ
Congregational. UCC.
Yes.
C?
UCC, comma C. Yes.
We're
trying to get the longest name.
Yeah, I think you did.
The second most historic and the first and longest title. Yes.
Absolutely. Luke, how did you end up in Medina, Ohio? I'm assuming you're not from here.
I am not.
Okay.
My family would visit. My grandpa was a beekeeper, so we'd head up to AI Root.
Okay.
In the 80s, they still had some apiary supplies, some beekeeping, and my grandfather always had the journal, the AI Root journal that I'm blanking on the name of, Learnings in Beekeeping or something of that.
Gleanings in Beekeeping
So that was always a fixture in his house, and so we'd make our way up here to pick up supplies. So I remember the drive-in specifically coming right by the high school and those trees and this tree-lined streets, and that just stuck in my memory.
Interesting.
But I came here in 2017. I'm originally from Denison-Uricksville, Ohio, so not the college town.
Denison-Uricksville?
Denison-Uricksville, the Twin Cities.
Okay.
Of Tuscarawas County.
Of Ohio.
Of Ohio, south of Dover, New Philly.
So I'm from Michigan. We go like this to show where we are.
Yeah, that's helpful.
So we're in Ohio.
And this side, the northernmost Appalachian County.
Gotcha.
Right below Canton. It's about an hour and a half from here.
Okay, not too far.
Not too far. So I was born and raised there.
Yeah.
Went to Ohio University. Was in DC for about 3 years working construction.
Oh, okay.
From there, got the call to go to seminary, which has been throughout my life. Went there to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is the closest thing I could get to Hogwarts.
Sure.
It's an amazing campus. Great 3 years there. Then I was looking for a church, and we knew Ohio was the call. That's where we're from. We want to be around family. So we went to the Toledo area, and I was the associate pastor there for 6 years of faith formation and family ministries at Sylvania United Church of Christ.
Okay.
But I started growing, and they kept putting me with the youth, and I'm happy to be with the youth, but that's not my only thing. I'm way too broody and tuned to a minor key, whereas the youth need a more positive person.
They need the glee key.
They need the glee. They need the major key. They need to run around, and so I started looking, and I was thinking Kent had an opening at that time. These other places had an opening, and I'm like, because they're nerds and I'm a nerd. This will be great. We could do a lecture series like I did the last place. We'll see what we got. But I showed up in Medina, and I felt, one, that connection from growing up with my grandfather. Two, it's the Church of AI Root, so that's like a little nod there. I'm like, I know AI Root. And then third, I show up, and I feel like I already know the church search committee already. I felt like I know these people.
Yeah.
And they had a little list of veterans there in their new library that they just remodeled, just completed the whole lovely addition. And on that list of veterans is the name of the first funeral I felt like a real pastor on, Steve Orvetz Jr.
Oh, wow, okay.
I was like, what's he doing here? And that from that point forward, that was like a sign like, welcome home.
Yeah, nice.
Like no need to look elsewhere. No need for any other interviews.
That was it. That was your sign.
That was it. Yeah.
What construction did you do in DC?
I did outside sales for tools and fasteners for Maganero. That was the #1 drywall contractor. So I'd travel around the Beltway. I'd drop off boxes of screws. I'd get cussed at in Spanish. It was wonderful. Really putting those Spanish credits to use. That was fun. But I started feeling like the way of the road. Went into inside sales, started growing my base of contractors, of guys who would do basements or kitchen remodels, and learning that business and starting to grow that. But then the housing crisis happened and everything collapsed So I went into inside sales at the DC yard and doing the yard management for that.
Okay.
For that particular location. It's right by the Navy Yard, and it's where the National Stadium is. So if you happen to visit the National Stadium, I didn't put in, because that's about, I just sell the thing.
Right.
I put in the little things that fastened the stadium seats to the concrete.
Which are very important.
Very important. You need those
in case
if your team loses, you don't want them chucking the chairs on the field.
When you were growing up in the Twin Cities of Ohio, did you know, like, did you have a calling early in your childhood, or thought that you were going to go into faith service?
I did. So I was raised in a tradition, in the Catholic tradition, K through 12, great tradition. But it was in 4th grade. My mom later reported, as I called her up in a 2-hour traffic jam in like 2007, like, I gotta find another job. The sales thing, the traffic here is killing me. We gotta get out of DC. And she's like, oh, I was just going through your stuff. And did you know up until 4th grade, when they asked, what did you want to be when you grew up? You said priest.
Really?
I was like, well, she's like, do you remember what happened? And I'm like, yeah, that was the year that my 4th grade teacher said you can't collect all 7 sacraments. You can either marry or you can be a priest. You can't do both unless something catastrophic happens. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then I guess I just lied, you know? I knew I wanted to be married and be a father. That call was also there. I don't know why, but so am I priest or father-husband? Father-husband is a little more tangible. I don't know about that other thing.
How did you meet your wife?
We met at the YMCA camp, Tippecanoe, about 40 minutes. So I live not in the middle of nowhere, but I can see it from my front porch.
Okay.
And that Camp Tippecanoe is literally in the middle of nowhere. And she was a horse counselor there. My sister was volunteering. So on July 15th, 1999, game over, man.
Nice.
I found her and was like, who is this? This is something
cool.
else. So
that's really cool. So at a young age, into the faith, and then into the wife.
Into the wife.
Eventually.
Eventually, yeah.
And then back into the faith.
We did.
When people say they got the call, what does that mean? What does that feel like? Is there literally a call? How does that work?
Yeah. Okay. Prepare to be weirded out. So
broody. It needs to be broody.
It's got to be broody. So one of the things for the United Church of Christ is God is still speaking. And I found that to be true. Largely speaking, not with words, but through like irony and coincidence is how I hear it. I'm sure there's others who have the big, I saw him descending on the cloud. That's never been how I've heard God. Mine's more contemplative, quiet, through nature, through just like a word that's repeated throughout the day. And I just pick up, like, that's weird that that's there. And then, so it was Kate's idea to get us back into church. I never gave up on Jesus, but his followers kind of weird me out every now and then. Like, they're just not science, they're not tolerant, pretty judgy, unless you know the rules. And I thought I knew the rules growing up, but that community, I found that the community I was raised in would never fully accept me. Being from a single mom, she didn't want to get divorced, but sometimes that's the most faithful choice. Sometimes, and that's where it was. And so that community said, no, you absolutely no. Divorced women, said from the pulpit, going to hell. That was 4th grade, stood up, walked out.
Wow.
And that was kind of the first crack, but I never gave up on God, but the followers sometimes. So I kind of over the church at that point, but Kate's really practical, very community minded. Hey, how do we serve our community? How do we get to know, where's the dentist? Where's the best local place to eat here? What's the history of this place that we found? And we were by Vienna, Virginia. So what was it before it became Tyson's 1 and 2? Before it's known for the malls? Where do we find these? So we got the story, we found the community through the church, and we just happened onto the United Church of Christ. And there the call kept ramping up. And it's like these little reminders up until that moment as I'm in a 2-hour of a 4-hour traffic jam, that I'm like calling anybody I can, like, just entertain me. I'm
Keep
stuck.
me awake.
Keep me awake. The fumes are getting to me. So that's when I called my mom, and she's like, hey, I saw that you wanted to be a priest. That's weird. So I called my minister, and he said, hey, I was just thinking about you. Oh, really? What were you thinking about? well, when are you going to go to seminary? What?
Wow.
What is it? And then I heard from the back, feed my sheep. So I look back, I'm, great, now I'm hearing things like this.
That's the broody part.
This is awful.
Yeah.
Like now I'm going
that's
insane in this truck. And it's a company truck. So I don't have that much room to complain. This is first world problems.
Right.
But I kept getting this nudge. Finally, I'm okay. I called my boss. I'm taking tomorrow off. I have this book that's bouncing around the back of my truck, given to me by my minister. And it's by Brian McLaren, A New Type of Christian.
Okay.
So I take this and I go down to one of our favorite hiking trails, the George Washington Towpath there. And I'm sitting there and I started reading it. And on page 47 of A New Type of Christian, it takes place on the towpath.
Oh, wow.
So I throw the book across. And I'm freaked out.
A lot of things coincided.
A lot of things in that 24-hour cycle that coincided, and that's how I got the call. And I said, okay, I'm going to go to seminary, and I'm going to learn all I can. But if I think the Bible is in any way intolerant, homophobic, racist, any of that, I'm going to learn these things, and I'm going to go through and really study all I can and unlearn some of the things I thought were true, and just come at it with an open mind. And it just blew my. When you actually read what's in there, it's amazing. Like this, people have been here before. It's so exciting.
Right.
So,
I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. Do you think different religions kind of pick and choose what they take from the Bible?
Every single one
belief?
of us. Yeah, every single one of us pick and choose. It's too vast of a text.
Yeah. Do we pick and choose what we need for our reality or what we want to be the message?
Yes and no. I think every faith tradition has something of the divine in it, including all the various denominations of Christianity. But they each focus on a certain thing. There's just not one gift of the Spirit, just as there's not one variety of tree. I mean, we get all sorts of different trees. There's a million different variety of beetle, of oak, so each one of these things has a purpose. It serves a purpose. Some are, let's serve our people. Some are, let's be very insular and protect our people. Some have this idea of like, well, we're on this holy adventure, let's experience it. So each faith tradition emphasizes a different aspect of what I believe is the divine. Even if I don't understand it, I have to make room that, okay, maybe God has. I think my way is the best, of course, but I have to think,
as you should,
that if I didn't, I wouldn't be doing this.
Right.
But I have to think that there's room for other traditions, because I got a lot out of other faith traditions as well. When I look at, say, like the Methodists or the Pentecostals, I'm like, wow, I'm excited that they are getting so much out of their tradition. It's not necessarily my home, but I can appreciate it.
But there has to be room for other belief.
There has to be room. Just our Jewish brethren. Like every year we go to February, I believe, is the local synagogue in Fairlawn. They open up their house. Hey, come learn Judaism. I worship there. That cantor there is divine. She could send me the phone book and I'd find God. Like, goodness gracious.
Nice.
So
I love your phrase, holy adventure.
Yeah.
That's cool. So tell me a little bit more about your connection here. You and Kate and your family have been here since 2017?
2017.
Okay.
2017, and it's just been, we live just off Reagan Parkway.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. Medina has everything. Everything. It's got history, it's got charm, it's a small college town that has no real campus around it.
Sure.
It's a charming sleeper community where people drive to Cleveland and Akron for their jobs, but also the hub of international headquarters.
Right.
Like, how are you doing this, Medina? Like, you don't fit any box I can construct. You know, it's amazing.
That is true. With your service in the church, like, how are you connecting to the community, or how, in your 4 years, 5 years now, how have you shifted the church and the focus through a pandemic and trying to more within the community, so you're not just this beautiful brick box on the corner?
Right. That's the real gift for them, is when I found them, it had to be a place that knew how to self-activate. So when I came, they had 4 major feeding initiatives. They adopted some families from Garfield. They would help with the library. They would do Feeding Medina County and partner with them, and partner with Cups Cafe. So they already had this in motion.
Right.
So I've just tried to nurture that and grow that in my tenure. The great thing about the Congregational tradition is it's a DIY, do it yourself. So there is no authority over us. We don't have bishops. It's all local autonomy, what we can create here.
Okay.
Which kind of flies in the face of a consumer culture. Like, don't we have people? Don't we hire that out? Can't we go buy this somewhere? And we're saying no, which is a very countercultural kind of thing. What can we create here on the northeast corner of the square? What is around us that we can feed into and help out with? And so I've just helped nurture that, which this is why I'm in the UCC. Is that DIY, and that we get to create it ourselves. There's a freedom, there's an adventure in that, but there's also the pain of, okay, well, we have to invent the wheel, which is also exciting and frustrating at the same time. If you just want to go out and buy something, we might not be the community for you.
Right. In your work, what do you see as the biggest need or needs within Medina, either professionally or personally?
Okay, the biggest needs of our community.
Or what are we lacking here that the community needs?
Yeah. A lot of my church I consider old Medina. We're established. It has a great memory going back to A.I. Root, H.G. Blake, Eliza Northrup. It was one of our founding members. So we remember that. And we also remember, when I first got here, a guy sat me down and was like, look, we all lost it when 76 came through. I'm like, whoa, really? He's like, yeah, we've just grown. So he's like, when we got over 10,000, like, I don't know about this. So now we're like, with the township, we're nearing 50,000 people.
Yeah.
So our memory is a small village of 7,000, but we've grown to the spot of 50,000. So that means addiction and recovery is going to be a big thing. Hope and vocational training, our career center. College isn't for everyone, so how do we also nurture up the trades? How do we get back to that? Because Medina creates a lot of things. How do we how do we nurture that and remember it? Remember its importance. So that's a need. How do we build a homeless shelter? Because that's going to only grow in time. There's a few that we have to put them up in the Super 8.
Yeah. And you guys do that
other area
through
hotels.
The church?
We do through the church, and we resource there. So how can we partner with housing to create a solution that would work for us?
Is there a solution to that? Or what does that look like in your mind? I feel like it's definitely a service that we need in the community, but can we solve it? Does it need to be solved, or is it something that we manage?
It's something that we manage, and so this goes back to I'm getting a doctorate because, like I mentioned before, I'm a nerd, so of course I have to go get the degree, and it's in adaptive leadership. And this is kind of a new way of thinking that came from the Harvard Business School of the work of Ronald Heifetz and Marty Linsky. And what they talk about is the difference between a technical fix and an adaptive challenge. The technical fix would be, okay, this light here, it's burnout. So, okay, that's a technical silver bullet kind of thinking.
Right.
We just have to, boom, we get with the person who has the right light bulb, there it is. That's different from an adaptive challenge versus like, oh, that light's powered by fossil fuel, and we're trying to lessen our impact or lessen our usage just because it's good to conserve and have lower energy bills. So if we switch it to an LED, that doesn't solve the problem. If we put solar panels on the roof of our church, also doesn't solve our problem. The problem still persists, and so it's going to take a lot of little fixes to help address it, and we might not ever address it. I think homelessness is one of those. There are many routes to do it, so the question for us is, how does Medina approach in a way that is good to the nature of our community, good to the soul of our community, is humane to our neighbor, and isn't pushing something on someone? How can we truly help them where they're at? And I think that's what Medina is excellent. We can use our strengths to address this problem.
Do you see our community as one that wants to approached homelessness or addiction and recovery, or is it one that you'd rather not talk about because this is Medina?
Both and.
Okay, that's fair.
When I first got here, there was a lot of hubbub about what would become Serenity coming in.
Sure.
So I was in on the ground floor of that.
Okay.
Just listening. I'm just learning about the community, and I know there's always, first it's change. People don't like change, even when it's for our benefit.
Right.
I don't like change.
We don't see that initially.
No, we're not gonna see it. But when we realize, like, they're already here. These are already my neighbors.
Yeah, true. Very
They
true.
might not have felt okay in sharing this, but they're already here. So how then? Now that I know that, now we see. Oh, here the community's really come around this, and now we have more than one recovery center and more than one approach, because we realize, like, oh, these are our neighbors, and now look what we have, a multifaceted approach that's really helping, especially in a pandemic time where
Sure.
all the triggers for addiction have really ramped up.
Yeah, that's true. What, other than your job, what is your connection to the community? Like when you come to work in the morning, is there a favorite building that you see, or what makes it feel like this is home?
The square is a huge one. The architecture of the houses, they're just, I mean, like I said, Medina has everything. I'm partial to our own building, but the square,
It's a pretty cool building.
it's a good one. I like it.
Yeah.
It looks like a church. Feels like a church to me.
It's a good thing.
That's what it looks like to me. Red brick and a steeple. I don't know why. The gazebo, the library was literally the first place that we stopped in.
Yeah.
We always have to be in a good library, and the library system, massive here, so we give a lot of our time. In addition to being a nerd, I'm also a geek. That's a subgenre.
Okay.
So I play a lot of board games, a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. Sweets and Geeks is a big place for me.
Big hangout place for you.
But I took that with the library. It's like, look, we have all these people coming in. Like, soon as school lets out, what can you do? We'd like a tutoring system or something. We can send them to your church. I'm like, it's my first year here. I don't know these people. I don't know if I can do that. But here's what I can do: is Dungeons and Dragons. So we can teach them how to do a story, basic math, teamwork, ethics. I only run a good campaign. I know there's some Christians out there like, oh, Dungeons and Dragons is demonic. No, you're literally fighting them if you play it right. You can. Those are your enemies. And in fact, one time one group was like, oh, we want to play an evil campaign. I'm like, no, we don't do evil. I'm a pastor. It's my job not to. I'm trying to make less of that in the world. So they kept pestering, and I'm like, okay, we'll do one adventure. So we rolled up the characters, and I just let them go helter-skelter all the way through. And then the very next week, I'm like, all right, you come upon a town, and it's in ruin, and I start describing the characters they played from last week that they now have to go catch. And they're like, oh. And that's when they knew the game was afoot and the rug had been pulled out from under them. So it's a holy trickery that I'm about.
I love it. I love it. If you and Kate had the chance to take a dream vacation with the family, either yourselves as a couple or with the family, where would you go and why?
Ireland, without a doubt.
Really?
Ireland. We loved our travels in Europe, and I did a lot of genealogy research and found a history there. The Mahaffys were there, which the Irish don't claim. They say they're Scottish, and the Scottish said, no, they're Irish. So we're going to head to the Emerald Isle and check it out.
Figure it out?
We'll go figure it out. We'll go knock on some doors.
Right. What is the show? We were just talking about popular culture before.
Right.
What is the show that was about the Scottish Highlands that we binge watched during COVID?
Outlander.
Outlander.
I think is that what it is? I think I started it, but I didn't. We should probably pick that up. Yeah.
It was interesting. Enjoyed it for a while, and then every episode was kind of the same format. We're going to have a war, there's going to be some sex scenes, and we're going to make up and discover another part of the family.
Right.
Literally every episode.
If it's got a formula, I can't follow it. I'm more absurd. I need something a little more off killer. I'm very high snobbery in terms of my sitcoms that I watch. So if I figure out the formula, I'm like, I'm out.
What's your favorite?
I can't do it. We loved Parks and Rec, The Office. There's something just 30 Rock. There's something that they always mess with their formula. They do different genre. We always like that. There's one what are we watching on Netflix? Kim's Convenience.
Love that show.
is amazing.
Silly but funny.
So, and it's heartwarming. Like it's just cynical enough, but also redemptive enough. Like, oh, this gets both sides of my heart, the hope and the brood.
Yeah, very
true.
true.
This is good.
Very true. Do you collect anything?
Yes.
Dungeons and Dragons?
Dungeons and Dragons books. Books in general, like I read anything. I always thought I would love to live in a library. I not only live in one, I work in one. Just surrounded by books all the time. Love books. Can't read enough.
I say this with complete love and respect.
Yeah.
Like you are living the real life big story. You're this 12-year-old kid who loves all this funky stuff in a year-old body. Being Reverend Linden.
Right. I'm serious,
and you
but
pull
not
it
at
off.
all. Oh, good. Wow. Good to hear. Thank you for that.
What's your dream for this town? What would you love to see in the next 10 years?
That is the question. For me,
Literally, that is the question.
I love the come on, brain. Medina's motto, unofficial motto, where we preserve the past and we forge the future. That's one of the things that, like, this is my vibe. Mm-hmm. This is my town. A deep rootedness of community, but also a porousness to accept the new, because life's changing.
Constantly.
And we're finding smartphones, TikTok culture, there's the digital age is eroding a sense of community, but also like we're finding it too. Mm-hmm. But it's, how real is it? Like our brains are not wired. We have Stone Age brains in a digital age.
Yes.
So we're not wired to carry all the stress that we know of what's happening in Timbuktu and Afghanistan and Syria and all. We can see it unfold in real time now. We're not equipped to handle that. So
yeah, that's very true.
So we're going to need community, real-time community out on the square, face-to-face interactions like this. We're going to need that more now than ever, because we're dividing over every stupid thing we can do. And as that ramps up, we're going to need a reminder of, we can have a band concert without it being politicized.
We don't have to have a protest.
We don't need to protest
play some Sousa and be happy.
Exactly. Just a 3-3 marching. We don't ever. We're fine. We're fine. We're going to get through this.
We are.
And we're going to need
and you're
that
going to lead
rootedness.
the parade around the square.
Absolutely.
All right.
Let me at him.
All right. Fair
Doesn't
enough.
matter who's there. We'll take anybody. Let's do it. If you're willing to have the conversation, we'll take you.
All right. Very cool. Luke, thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
I appreciate
it.
Yeah, man.